Hey, welcome to the RCHS Podcast. I'm Bobby, producer of the podcast here at Rancho. Today we're going to be continuing with our theme of beginning the school year and how it affects teenage lives, but we're going to be interviewing teachers and how they view beginning the school year and how this might affect teenagers. So I'm going to hand it off to Lucas and Farida to get it started.
Hey guys, welcome back to another RCHS episode. We're here with another one. It's the second episode. We're interviewing teachers today. Can you guys introduce yourselves? What grade you teach specifically, and what subject?
Well, I'm Mrs. Martineau, and I teach English and academic decathlon. And for English, I teach both freshmen and seniors.
And I'm Mrs. Erickson, and I oversee the independent studies students. So I actually have all grade levels.
I think you guys are two good examples of a teacher that is a jack of all trades, because literally you guys teach very various topics.
That's a backhanded compliment. Oh, yeah. Hey guys, I'm here. Lucas is on this episode. But that's kind of a backhanded compliment. Have you heard the full saying?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay, I would definitely say that is true.
They're masters of all.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate on this one, because guess what? If you're good at many different things, or at least you know how to do many different things,
You can't be great at anything.
that's not true. You can always have different options, because guess what? Once you start doing something, you can become better. There's always room for improvement. That means you can become better. You just have to find something. You have more options, and that is hard to choose what you would want to do. But at least you can have many options. People be like, I'm only good at math. I'm going to go computer science because
I
I'm
am only
math.
good at math. That's what I want to do.
Well, I'm sorry, Lucas, that you can't find other things you're good at. So I think I'd rather be good at several things and okay at them than only be good at one thing.
I'm good at a lot of things. I think my grades are better than yours.
Well, we're not going to talk about that because I'm
This
student
is
of the month.
wonderful
I'm
that we're
student of the
listening
month
to
for
this.
September, and Lucas is not. So I don't know how you could say that right
What
now.
subject was this month?
What do you mean?
What was this month's subject?
Not English.
It was gym.
So she's an expert in all subjects. She's not a jack of all trades. She's an expert in a variety of subjects, right?
That's true. I'm good at English. That's I personally like.
Yes.
Have you seen my grades?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that was literally 2 weeks ago, okay? They change, okay? Literally, I just turned in my digital film project, and if I get a good grade on it, it'll go to at least an A. If it was really good, I would meet all requirements, and many people didn't even finish the project at the deadline. So
That's just because they're lazy.
We're calling people out over here.
I believe you, Farida. I believe you.
Yeah, okay, well, anyway, going back to more. How has your guys' classes been so far? Any specific students or anything you're well, this has been an issue, I love this with your classes so far?
Well, I only have one senior class, which has been really fun because I get to really dive in and tailor the curriculum to them rather than having to worry about making sure that it widely fits 3 different classes. And so that's been really interesting. We've been getting into some really fun conversations and discussions. We had a really awesome Socratic seminar that we did the other day. So that's been really exciting. And then in terms of my freshman classes, it's been really fun to actually get to repeat something. Because I've taught a new grade level every single year I've been here so far. And this is the first year that I'm actually not getting a new curriculum to learn. So it's nice to be able to actually tailor.
one topic.
Yeah. And fine tune it.
I think going back to what I had mentioned before, it is just so amazing to have my students back in person and work with them, sitting down next to them, showing them examples visually, and it also creates a bond that you just can't get online. And so, those students, they know that, I care about them, I'm here for them. There's just something different about sitting next to somebody and, just tapping them on the back and saying good job, that you just can't get when you're on camera. And so I just love that about this year for me. Because, I've done a lot of different modifications and learned a lot of new things, but that's been over the last 5 years of doing the independent studies. I've done that, but this year is very special to me and very fun in that way.
I'd like to put perspective on things. So I don't know, I always like students that would be oh, I wonder what it'd like to be homeschooled. And everyone was like, this is going to be so cool. We get to be at home and study, like, online. But, like, a few weeks into this, everyone was like, I want to go back.
Cool.
It was, look at
It wasn't very cool. I was sad in my room all day.
It was boring, right? Like
I didn't even pay attention to any of my classes. I'll be honest.
And to be honest, I'm just gonna say this: it was a little bit more easy to cheat on stuff. Like not like I did it or anything. I'm just saying like other students could have done it. You know.
I definitely cheated.
Thank you.
I think everybody did.
What was your guys' perspective of? Do you guys always wonder what it was like to teach online?
I actually, yes and no. I was a student online. I did the large majority of my college online.
Oh, wow.
So half of my bachelor's and both of my master's degrees were done entirely online.
That must have been really easy.
It was, no.
Well, hard in the sense of getting it, but when like you're taking your tests and stuff.
Well, so I mean English degrees. So I was writing like 15-page papers.
Never mind, that's hard.
It's essays, and so.
My sister took criminology, so she cheated on a lot of her tests.
Wow.
Do I think she understands
Thank you, Lucas, for ratting her out. Thank you.
I'm a narc.
I really can't even imagine, and I commend you, Mrs. Martineau, for doing that, because I come from a day and age where, this is sad that I'm going to say this, and you guys are all going to know how old I am, but I didn't even get my first email address until I was in college. When I was here as a student at Rancho, we did not use internet for research. We spent many hours in the library using books, something called books. I don't know if you guys have heard of those before.
What are those? Where can I find
Yeah, I will help you through that. I will definitely give you a tour of the library and introduce you to the staff.
Library?
A library, yeah. In fact, I think when I applied for this position as a teacher here at Rancho, I think my application was even on paper. It was...
You had to handwrite it?
Yeah, I typed up my resume, but I think I actually had to handwrite the actual application where you fill in your social security number and all that. So I came from a very different day and age. Now I have grown and learned from my students, and I'm pretty tech savvy. Now I hope that my son doesn't laugh at me for saying that.
He is currently laughing.
But for my age, I'm pretty tech savvy. I was Google certified and everything, so I kind of know the basics, you know, but I came from a very different time. So being online, has had its struggles, and I don't think necessarily because of technology itself, but I just think because that's not the way I learned. And so it's like shocking to me. And so when I see my students, I think I have a lot of empathy for them when they are struggling to learn at home independently, because independent studies is not easy. It's not as glamorous as some people think it is. It
takes a lot of self-discipline.
Yeah,
you have to know that, like,
to manage yourself for sure.
Yeah.
Like when you go home, say, I'm gonna do this at home.
Yeah.
And end up never.
I tell my students that all the time. They're like, I'm just gonna do it at home. I'm like, no, you're not.
But the difference is, I know that if I don't do it, I'm just gonna be digging the hole deeper. So I'm gonna have to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you think COVID trauma is over? Going back to that.
I definitely don't think it is. That's definitely a big thing. So they talk about generations and the different incidents that define generations. And the COVID incident was definitely the defining feature for your generation. They talk about 9/11 being one for like my generation, and then they talk about like the Vietnam War and those things, like big events.
That old.
Well, I'm just going back.
That was a low blow.
It was an example. I was seeing where she was going, but she was looking at Miss Erickson when she was saying it. Wait, Cold War.
Vietnam.
Okay, it's okay.
It's a part of the Cold
in
War.
history,
Yeah, okay.
In American history, we don't talk about the Vietnam War.
It's one of the proxy wars of the Cold War.
It's okay.
Isn't it
Don't
called the
worry.
Korean-
We'll stick with the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
With
The
Mrs.
Korean
Martineau.
conflict.
Go ahead. You're good.
Defining moments and generations that like colors how they perceive the world.
That's
so
good. I think I do see that.
like with the Cold War generation, like a lot of them, after witnessing everything that was going on, are very much a lot more pacifist than previous people, or were more likely to question how the government was running things. And this generation, I feel like, is much more open about mental health now because of this thing, and they want mental health to be a feature and a focus. And that perspective is new because of what you guys went through. And it's really the upcoming generations that kind of determine how things function past a certain point.
Bad thing if I'm the next generation.
You are gonna be the next generation no matter
That's a
what.
bad
Okay,
thing.
so if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer. How old are you?
I am 28.
Miss
I knew
Erickson,
that.
how old are you?
Bobby, how old am I now? I'm so old, I can't even remember. 41.
Okay,
I-
actually, that's not that old.
That's not
Yeah.
that
You
old.
still, you look young. That's all that matters.
I'm 41.
And if you have that,
If
like,
you're
that-
I
young, yeah,
started
that's all
losing
that
track at 35, I think. So,
okay, well, why did I ask that? I was gonna ask. Yeah. So, what generation are you? We're Gen Z. Okay.
Are
I'm
we Gen Z?
technically
a millennial.
a millennial by like
What
3
year?
years, 1994.
Okay, yeah.
So and my brother is the next generation after. He's not a millennial. I am a millennial, and he's only 3 years younger than me. So
Miss Erickson, I don't know what generation.
so
you
I'm
are.
like this like in-between-ish generation.
We're both
Some
in-betweeners.
people call us the millennials, but I'm not a part of the
Gen Xer?
millennials. I was born in 81. So I think the cutoff is about 81 or 82.
So you're
But
like
I will
between Gen
tell
X
you,
and
yes.
millennial?
So I'm like the lost, we're not sure
In
how to
between.
categorize these people. But I will tell you why I believe I'm not a millennial. It's because I did not have a cell phone until I was in college. And like Mrs. Martineau said, a lot of the defining of your generation is when you're in like middle school and high school, when you're really starting to understand the world.
Becoming an adult.
And we didn't even have smartphones until after I had kids. So, or after I had, that was when they started kind of coming out, was about then. So my first cell phone was the
Nokia.
Okay, well, since you guys went to Rancho, you guys a little bit had an age gap though, but over the years of you teaching here or as a student, what have you seen change throughout that time? It's a big, long period, and you can usually get good data from statistics. You said you teach statistics, so it's all about data, right?
Yeah.
So what do you see that you see is a, what's it called? A trend?
A trend.
A
A
trend.
correlation.
Yeah, well, I don't take statistics yet, but...
Just everybody
Okay,
knows what a
Lucas.
trend is.
Okay, I was trying to say it, but I thought it was something else. Okay, Lucas, just
What did you think it
just
was?
go back to being quiet, or unless you want to say something. Okay.
Oh, I actually did want to say something.
Well, why didn't you tell me to say I want to say something? Okay. Well, anyway, going back to that. See, we keep having those moments. You see, this podcast is gonna be more of like a I'm beating you up, Lucas moment. Like this is what they wanted
It's
me
okay. It's all right. We
It's
all
a
have
hot
those
take.
moments.
to do. Yeah. So what
I'll
have you
have my
seen
moment.
over this time that it's changed, or you think that it's still here? Like school spirit, I think is like was always
Yeah, I mean, there's been a little bit of a hiccup with the, being online for a year, and people kind of like didn't know how to didn't know what the school spirit was, because the last year the only people who had spent any significant amount of time on campus in person were the seniors, and they were just kind of tired because they had such a difficult time over COVID and everything like that. But school spirit, I mean, I really like seeing, I feel like it's coming back really strongly this year.
Oh yeah.
In a way that like a lot of people were worried wasn't going to happen. But I think our school is very good about making sure our culture is one where people feel comfortable, and where we always try to keep moving forward and growing and learning. But I also, like, I've had a lot of kids in my classes who have gone to like several different schools.
Yeah,
several different high schools even. Like last year I had a senior who, this was his first year at Rancho, and he had gone to 3 other schools, not just within our own district, but outside of the district.
Wow.
And he was like telling people definitively Rancho is the best school I've been to.
Did you guys always want to be teachers?
So I actually used to swear to my mother that I would never be a teacher.
Mom's like, well, looking at you now. Like,
Yeah. So I was like, I'm never gonna be a teacher. No way, no how. I actually wanted to go to college for English for writing books. I wanted to write books.
Writing too, actually.
And at school, the only job I could get was tutoring kids. And so as I was tutoring the kids, I was like, wait, I'm kind of good at this. Maybe I should consider being a teacher. And so.
Okay, so I have a really good story to spring off of that. It involves tutoring. So I did want to be a teacher all throughout high school. And I originally went through, started in college wanting to be a math major and teach math. And I quickly learned that I'm really, really good at math, but I'm not good at teaching math. And when I had students that would come to tutoring sessions that I would go in and, you would go and you get paid for these tutor sessions. Actually, some of them I would just volunteer for. And I would have students come in and I would say, what do you mean you don't get it? Like, it's just, this is the way it is. Like, I can't explain it. It's just, why don't you get it? And the students were like, you're a tutor? And so it was like, I failed at it. It was terrible. So I decided, okay, just because I'm really good at math doesn't mean I'm really good at teaching it. And I think I need to face the truth here. And I liked English as well. And I felt like kind of exploring and taking more English classes, I learned that I'm a lot better at explaining writing and literature and analyzing. And it's quite interesting because I was actually having this conversation with Mr. Dirksen the other day and his wife, and she was telling me that Mr. Dirksen actually scored higher in the English subjects when he was like in college. And he's, as many of you know, he's very intelligent.
He's
and
a very good math teacher. He loves
he
patterns.
is very, very good at analyzing and understanding literature and writing, is amazing at that. But he ended up choosing math, which he is obviously also good at. And I'm not sure the reason why he chose that over English. But it's kind of funny that, just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean that is necessarily going to become your passion or going to be the appropriate, path to follow.
Okay, I've had the exact same thoughts.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about this. I've always said if I were to be a teacher, I'm going to have to be an English teacher because I don't understand English as well as I understand math. Because if I don't understand English, I will never get mad at my students for not understanding English. I don't understand it either.
Well,
I like that.
But
they often say that those who are really experts in their fields struggle to teach it because they don't have to think about other ways to understand it. So when someone struggles with it, they have to come up with other ways to grasp it. So they have a better ability to teach to a wide range of different people.
Or maybe a good number of the English teachers would probably say they really enjoy reading and their nose is always in a book, like Mrs. Martineau. I always see her nose in a book.
Yeah.
So do you like reading?
Yes, I like
At restaurants?
Yes, at restaurants.
She's like that one person.
What's your favorite food place? We have to ask all of our guests this. What's your favorite food place?
This is how Lucas
Lucas's
transitioned.
question. This is
my only question that I get, and this is my favorite question.
Okay, so I have to comment
Favorite
first.
food place?
So Lucas loves this question because he's very passionate about food. And something we've talked about as a podcast club is we want to have this cohesive set of questions that all kind of flow together.
Yeah, that's his question.
And if we're starting about talking about the beginning of the school year and how it's going and COVID, and this was excellent that Lucas actually found a way to perfectly transition
Everything to food.
into
food
a food conversation. it may have been an abrupt transition,
Let's talk about food.
but I commend you, Lucas, that you actually found a way this time to transition. And English teachers, we love transitions.
He's just
yes,
built like that.
Yeah.
Makes
I love
things
it.
smoother.
So
more
I will
cohesive.
accept
So
this
in the
transition.
In the end of this whole argument, what is your favorite food place? That's how I'd end my essay.
Okay.
The food places that you read books at.
Yes.
So all of
whatever you
them. This is probably like a not popular opinion. Taco Bell.
Somebody said that last
The nacho cheese though
Okay, yeah.
is so good, and it makes literally everything on their menu better. Everything.
Okay, so I'm one of those like crazy freak people that have like allergies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Kinda
so
scared.
unfortunately,
It was fell out of his chair.
unfortunately, I can't eat the same way that I did when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I could eat whatever I wanted, and
Did
I
it
would
just
have said
change, like-
everything. Yes, actually, after I had my son. Then my celiac
Bobby's
disease. Yes, my celiac disease is what it is called. It was triggered by a certain hormone that after I had him. So it was a frustrating time to go through, and kind of I'm glad the doctors figured out what was wrong with me, and but so
So you usually eat at home, or?
so I still eat places, fortunately. So celiac disease, you are allergic to gluten. So
what's the
fortunately, we in today's society, there's so many more options for me because a lot of restaurants are becoming more and more aware of people that have allergies. So I generally eat at places that have gluten-free options.
So what place?
So my family has to suffer as a result too,
You
because
can't go
when we
there, I
go
can't
out to
there.
eat, when we go out to
Poor
eat, we have
Bobby.
to pick from the like gluten-free restaurant, gluten-free friendly restaurant.
Okay, what restaurant is restaurant?
So my favorite ones, if you're talking fast food, then I'll do Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out because they can do modifications and
That's
they're really
good.
good about
Their
not
fryers just for fries,
like
and they don't.
cross-contamination.
They have like a fries only fryer, and then a chicken nugget fryer.
So they
that's
don't
for the
like
breading.
mix.
That's a restaurant that's very considerate. I like
Yeah,
that.
and some restaurants will say, "Oh yeah, it's gluten free," and it's gluten free in the ingredients,
But not in
like
the preparation,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So that's what's tough for me because I actually
have to be very careful.
I actually have an allergy, not just a sensitivity. So those are usually my go-tos as far as fast food goes. And then if it's restaurants, I find a lot of options. P.F. Chang's, Red Robin, Paul Martin's, all the nice, expensive ones that put a big hole in my
That has
wallet.
a very trained chef in their kitchen.
Yes, exactly.
Besides Red, I always get terrible service at Red Robin.
We get it to go. That might help, Lucas.
Oh.
Just avoid it. Just avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be a really bad treatment.
All right,
I'm
well-
not even using in the end.
Well, do you guys have any embarrassing moments as teachers or any experiences? I feel like teachers, they definitely
That
see
was
things
my
they shouldn't.
question.
Well, I'm sorry, Lucas. You kept on going back to your quiz question, okay?
But I was gonna ask that question.
Well, guess
So-
what? You did and I did.
Okay.
Do you want us to
That's all right.
specify teacher or like as students?
Anytime.
Teacher. I think it's teachers. Teachers have their
I'm
moments.
totally good with the whole teacher thing. I've got so many teacher moments. Do you want to go first?
I have to think of one. You go
Okay. All right. So this was like my first year teaching, and I had to travel all over campus for all my classes. So I was like a traveling teacher because they were very limited in their classrooms. So I had one class that was way on the west side, and then my other class was like down by the swimming pool, like far east.
Oh.
So I had 7 minutes or 8 minutes or what, I think it was 7 minutes to go all the way across campus, down 3 stories of stairs in high heels
Oh,
on a rainy day,
Oh my
right?
God.
I mean, this, and I had to carry, a big bag with all my stuff, and I had this wheelie cart that I would carry because this was back in the day before we had like everything online. So everything back in 2003, everything was like photocopy handouts. Or you handwrite it, or or these old school things that were like clear pieces of paper that you write on. Yes, transparencies.
I remember those.
And then look it up online because you probably don't even know what it is, but like an overhead projector with transparencies. Like that was what I used my first year teaching. So
I learned that
I would travel all across campus with all my photocopies, all my books, everything. So one day I was traveling and it was pouring rain. And I was in my high heels, and I had a big jacket on, and I had my wheelie cart, and I had my big bag, and my umbrella, and my water bottle, and my coffee. And I was all trying to carry these. Now, if I was smart, I would have enlisted a student to come help me, a TA or something,
get to class.
Right?
I'll just fall down the stairs, okay?
Had we had, you know, some like student achievement students that I was like knew, I would have called on them. But unfortunately I did not. And so I was walking across some cement and I kind of tripped a little bit. Wasn't bad, I kind of saved myself. But I was going so fast that I rammed into this kid that was probably like 6'3". And let me tell you, I ran this kid over. I mean, 6'3" on the football team, and I tackled him. I had those sharp heels on, and I had my wheelie cart, and this poor kid,
he deserves.
Fortunately, he was likely on the football team. I don't know that for sure, but he probably was. So he was probably used to being beat up on.
Well.
But I just ran. I ran as fast as I could because I was so embarrassed that.
Asking if he's okay.
But so I was like, I'm so sorry, and I just ran.
Because she was a student, and like she was.
Yeah, I was so embarrassed that I had run this kid over because I was trying to carry too much and going too fast, and I felt so bad. But all I could do was run away.
I guess in terms of being a teacher, the most embarrassing thing that has happened to me is being mistaken for my age.
Oh, okay, this is good.
I one time had forgotten lunch, and I was like, I'll run during my prep period to go pick up lunch. Because my prep period, my first year teaching was 4th period. And so I was walking out to my car in the teacher lot, and one of the security guards, who was not familiar with me, ended up like yelling at me, like, "What are you doing out here? You're supposed to be in class." Like, he thought I was a student, and I was like, "I'm a teacher. I have keys. Look, here's my staff ID." Like, I had to prove to him that I was a teacher, and he did not believe me for like a solid 5 minutes. And he was about to like walk me back to the gates, and I was like, "No, we can go to the office, and I can prove I'm a teacher. I promise." So, and that's still kind of an ongoing thing. Like, people will often mistake me for a student, and especially when we get new security guards that kind of look at me funny, like, "Are you supposed to be here?" And I'm like, "Yes,
no.
I'm an adult."
But it's good to get young, and I have something very similar. One of my first couple years teaching, and I was actually pregnant with my son, I was chaperoning a dance, and I was fairly early on in my pregnancy, so I wasn't showing too much, but I was chaperoning a dance, and I was just kind of standing there, just kind of chaperoning, doing my thing, just watching, standing there.
Yeah.
And a kid actually came up and asked me to dance.
Oh no!
That's so old.
And he was probably like not even from our school. He was this little freshman, and I was like, so I didn't want to tell him like I'm a teacher to like embarrass him. So I was just like, "Oh no, not right now. I'm not feeling well." Yeah.
Poor freshman.
I know, the poor little freshman. He was probably like from another school, but at least it made for like a funny story in the future. And I never told him. I never told the kid.
I would be so embarrassed.
I know. So that was kind of interesting, you know.
Yep.
Being pregnant too. I was kind of like,
You're like,
I'm like, okay, I know I'm early on, but
Do you
this
guys
is
have any student related embarrassing
Oh,
stories?
I 100% do.
When you guys were students?
First day of school, 8th grade. We were doing this activity in class, and this is in the era of projectors, overhead projectors,
Yes.
which would have cords that extended across long spaces to be plugged into the wall. And so we had to, our teacher was like, oh, finish this paper, walk up to the front, put it on the projector, and then walk back to your seat. So I'm like walking, I go put my paper on the thing, I start walking back and trip over the cord. And and start falling, and it felt like slow motion because I'm going down face first, and like halfway through my fall, I twist around and land on my back instead of my face. But it was a portable, so all you hear is this big boom, and everyone goes dead silent, looks at me, and I'm just like red in the face, like picking myself off the floor, and my teacher looks at me and she goes, if it's any consolation, that was the most graceful fall I've ever seen. I was like, it's really not, but thank you very much. I went back to my seat.
Oh no.
What about you?
That's a good one.
Kristen?
Well, it's a long time ago, so the only thing I can think of right now is similar. I was a cheerleader here in my freshman year. I was doing a backflip on cement.
Real gas.
And don't ask me why I was doing it on cement, and we didn't use mats back in those days because, you know, safety. What's safety? You know,
What's
it's
mat?
the
It's
90s.
expensive.
We don't care about safety. So, yeah, I landed on my face because I just, you know, I don't know what I did. So I landed on my face.
Did it rotate enough?
It was one of my many cheerleading injuries. I've been in ambulances a lot of times, but we won't talk about the other times. So, I mean, my face was destroyed. I mean, I was bloody all over. I have big old scars. When I went to the doctor, they said, yeah, it's a really good thing that you had braces, because if I didn't have braces, like, I would have knocked all my front teeth out. They said my braces saved me.
You saved lives.
Save lives. So braces save lives. That is going to be the title of this episode. Braces save lives. So don't be afraid, kids, to go get braces, because it could save your
Teeth
five
falling
front
out.
free- yeah, your front teeth. So next day I showed up at school because I never missed school. I was always worried I would miss something big. So I showed up at school and everyone's like, what happened to your face? And I was like, oh, you should see the other guy. And they all laughed.
Play it off.
Yeah, just, you know, just have to make fun of yourself sometimes when you have like huge scars, you know, all over your face and like bloody
I
scratches.
understand the feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure with all of your sports, you
I've gotten
understand.
kicked in the face
Yeah.
too many times.
By
Yeah.
cleats?
By cleats.
Oh,
Please,
I've gotten
black
cleated.
eyes. Yeah.
Never got a black eye.
Okay, never got
Just
it.
kicked in the side of the face, cleated in the side of the face.
Okay.
Not very good. Not a very good feeling.
But was it worth it?
Yes.
Okay, see,
Won.
that's
Yeah.
what I
And the
always
only
ask
time
my
I didn't
students.
play, we lost. And I'm holding that grudge against the other keeper that played that game. You know who you are. You know why we lost. All right, but I think that's about it for this episode.
right.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Miss Martina. Thank you, Miss Erickson.
Thank you for
And I
having
hope you
us.
have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
You
All
too.
right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the RCHS Podcast. Today we talked about the fun stories of being a teacher and how this affects the lives of teenagers. Join us next week as we dive into not only the perspectives of teenagers, but the perspectives of their parents.